Hey there, folks. Just wanted to open with a few thoughts regarding the recent media hysteria regarding Giannis Antetokounmpo's recent comments on his future and whether or not that lies in Milwaukee or elsewhere. To start off, I won't be focusing much on Giannis's comments, but rather the media's reaction to them and an alarming trend that is spiraling out of control in regards to how the media covers basketball in America and how very little of that actually focuses on the game itself, but much rather focuses on sensationalist tabloid like stories. I understand that the offseason for many sports causes the media to desperately and honestly nauseatingly grasp at straws in order to present their audience with what they perceive to be interesting. And it's not a problem that's exclusive to basketball alone. But for basketball, this tendency often carries over into the season itself. The play in the NBA deserves as much breakdown as the NFL receives during its season, but we're often only left with two people in the mainstream basketball media who do that on a consistent basis. One of those being Tim Legler on ESPN, who's barely used by the network for unbeknownst reasons, and the other being Kenny Smith on TNT, who only works once a week during the season and really only has two segments during that studio show where he actually goes to his telestrator and breaks down play. We just wrapped up a very entertaining few weeks of basketball in Southeast Asia with the FIBA World Cup, and the amount of coverage that actual basketball got in the media here in America versus storylines regarding two singular teams, those being Canada and America, were very, very disheartening to me. I didn't hear a single English language media outlet mention the legendary international careers of Luigi Dattomi or Hamed Haddadi wrapping up in extremely emotional fashion, nor did I hear much talk about breakout international stars such as Aleksa Avramovic of Serbia, Arturs Zagars of Latvia, or Yuki Kamamura of Japan, amongst many others. Instead, the coverage was 99.9% about whether Team USA had it, or if Canada actually had the best player in the tournament with SGA. The answer to both of those questions ended up being a resounding no, and we were graced with a terrific final between the two best teams in the tournament, with the most consistent team, Germany, emerging as champion. If you had just tuned into the final alone, you would have no clue that either of those teams were playing the best basketball in the tournament to that point. We're reaching a critical point in NBA coverage with media rights deals negotiations approaching at the end of the 2024-2025 season. And I'm not sure the current rights holders are doing a good job at presenting the public with reasons to engage with the games themselves. They're continually treating it as a soap opera rather than an elite sporting event. There's plenty of room for film breakdowns and discussions of trade requests and free agency moves. But currently, it seems like shows like NBA Today would rather spend 30 minutes belaboring when a star expresses a tiny bit of consternation regarding the future of his current franchise. This extends to ESPN's halftime shows during the season, where there is little legitimate analysis of the game at hand being given, and rather we just see talking heads sitting around saying cliche things like, I need to see more from Anthony Davis in the second half. It's absolutely embarrassing and really unlike anything else you see in any other sport. But maybe it's me who's in the minority. I personally think there's much more than drama alone that makes the NBA interesting, and I think the public are dying to understand the game on a deeper level. There are numerous successful accounts on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube that do dive deeper into analysis, and they tend to have pretty high viewership. With other sports, ESPN has shown they're capable of understanding this appeal, such as the NFL with their NFL Live show. They have great breakdowns. Dan Orlovsky does a great job there. But for some reason, they seem to treat fans of the NBA and the NBA as a whole as lesser. I personally can only hope that one day they open to their eyes to the possibility, but to me, it's not looking promising.
All right, welcome back to the Bool Boys Pod, episode 12. I got Brian here. Sebastian's joining shortly. His technical difficulties, I think. Yeah, we're going to talk about a little bit of NFL, a little bit of soccer, and then Brian has something he wants to talk about with Unity and what's going on and the changes they've made to their business model, to put it politely. Um, Then, as usual, we'll finish with top five, Bool or bust, and song of the week is Sebastian's. So right now we have 1 minute left. Miami's playing New England. That's our game of the week. We're gonna try to do this new little shtick where we'll choose one game of the week across all sports and based like NFL, NBA, college football, college basketball, even a boxing match or a tennis match. And we'll all three watch about it. Then we'll start off the pod with sort of like a recap and opinions, and then we'll move to the normal pod programming. So, Brian, what's up?
Yeah, not much. Just had a nice chill weekend. Went to cousin's baby shower, and then a friend's birthday party. Overall, pretty good. Nice and relaxed. I had a little bit of a busy week last week, preparing for something, and now I'm free.
Miami ekes this one out versus the Patriots. And as I mentioned earlier, it was our game of the week. Uh, so it was like a little shtick that we were going to do to watch one game every week and then talk about it. So as a whole, as the clock winds down, literally now, uh, what were your thoughts, Sebastian? It's fresh in your mind. We'll start with you. What were your thoughts on the game of the week, which was the Miami Dolphins versus Patriots?
So I had written down early on that the Patriots went too hard on trying to prevent big plays from Miami, so they gave away too much underneath, and it felt like they couldn't stop Miami either way at that point because they were just giving up underneath plays, and Miami speed will kill you regardless. But then um, they eventually turned it around, but kind of feels like 2 weeks in a row, um, Miami or New England has had these slow starts kind of doom them. And just it's kind of hard to come back continually, especially when I don't think your offense is necessarily the most talented offense out there. But I mean, it shows that they have fight, but I don't know what the future holds for the Patriots really.
They're just a solid team, right? They're
Yeah.
still well coached. Mac Jones can only take you to a certain ceiling. It seems like. Would you agree? And that maybe is contending for a wild card, maybe for the division. Is that fair? But they're never gonna like truly contender for the conference, right? Is that's not in the cards for them this year at
Yeah,
least.
I definitely think that's true. I think Mac is like his ceiling's probably like a top half quarterback, like middle of the pack in that, like not too bad, but not excellent. So you're probably right. Like that wild card, like fighting for a wild card berth, is definitely the ceiling for this team. I mean, they did a really good job on Tyreek tonight, but it was everybody else kind of killed them.
Yeah,
Go,
I,
go ahead, Brian.
oh,
You
yeah, yeah,
first.
I was just saying, like, I actually I was surprised that they even made a comeback. Like, Dolphins pulled out ahead pretty early, and I was watching it, but I kind of relegated it to my second screen because I wasn't thinking that they'd actually have enough fight to bring it back. But I mean, ultimately they weren't able to. But I guess, like you said, having that fight is worth something, I suppose.
Yeah, they're not gonna
So
get
yeah,
embarrassed, I don't think.
no, exactly right. And to your point, Siebes, you mentioned that like it wasn't really Tyreek Hill, it was everyone else. The guy I who stood out for me was this Mostert guy, Mostert,
Oh,
the
Raheem
running back.
Mostert, I loved that guy when he was in
Yeah,
San Francisco.
he ended up with 121 yards, 6.7 average on 18 carries. It was just crazy. Like he was tearing them up, and then like he's Tua and Mac Jones both didn't have a great game. Both had one TD and one interception. Uh, Tua was 21 for 30. Mac Jones passed it 42 times for 31-42. In the early first half, he was like pretty on point, wasn't he? Like 13 for 16, like hitting everything, playing really well too. So credit to Mac Jones. Um, so for me, where it turned was fourth quarter, 9:56. Uh, Tua throws the turnover, his interception, and that guy Christian Gonzalez is that
Yeah,
the name?
highly
Yeah, he
touted,
just just
draft pick, really good player.
just jumps out of no like crazy catch, gets the interception, and then they kind of like give it back immediately, and then then Tua comes back and he scores on them, and then it just seems like out of reach from there. So that was the turning point for me, and shows the duality of Tua. Even though he's like a good quarterback, it seems like
He's
for
better
some
than good.
reason, there's a lot of he's a great borderline great quarterback,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of
border. Yeah.
turnovers. I feel.
Apparently, he's never lost to the Patriots.
No,
I
he
was looking that
hasn't.
up. Yeah, which is pretty
He's it,
surprising.
it that interception was a really strange decision because it just felt out of character. I actually thought he was having a really great game until like the fourth quarter. He But I think a lot of the thing with Tua for me is like it's very flat, like very eye catching. So I kind of get lost in the sauce, and then I look at the stat line, and yeah, you're right. It was like good, but it wasn't out of this world. And I think that's partially due to like what I was saying about the Patriots trying to take away their big playability because they didn't want to be like the Chargers and just get burned. Like that was really bad last week on the flip side of it.
Hmm.
But um yeah, you're kind of right. It wasn't Tua's best game. He just had a lot of highlight worthy throws. His touch is pretty otherworldly. You don't really see that a lot from pretty much most quarterbacks in the league. I can't think of one who has better touch.
Your boy makes his no, he doesn't. Second game for him, right? Ezekiel Elliott, 5 carries,
Yeah, I don't know what
13
people were
yards.
expecting.
Tough, tough going for him. I mean, it's
It's
more of like how the mighty have fallen type
Do
situation.
you have what? Do you have any? How do I say residual feelings for Ezekiel
Yeah,
Elliott
that's what I
still?
was trying to like get at,
I'll
like
always love
gauging your
Zeke.
reaction. Like,
Um,
how,
like I'll always I think people talk about him very unfairly when looking back at the Cowboys tenure. Like it wasn't his choice to get that big contract. It was just the right move at that time, I suppose. I mean, maybe it wasn't the right move because I don't know if you should ever give a running back that much money guaranteed for that long. Um, but he was a team leader. He brought like a good vibe to the team. He worked his ass off even when he was diminished. He was one of the better pass blockers that you could have as a running back. Uh, but I don't know what people expected when the Patriots signed him. Like if you had been watching the Cowboys, he kind of got run into the ground his first few years just with tons of carries, and this is who he is now. Like I kind of cracked up at Patriots fans being like, "Oh, Zeke's lost weight. He's in the best shape of his life heading into the season." It was like, dude, that was like the last like 4 years. Like we would hear about this every single offseason as a Cowboys fans. And like, yeah, he always comes into the season looking good. Like he does look slimmed down. He definitely is taking better care of his body, but I just think the miles are there, and it's never going to be what it was the first few years.
It's funny you
And
say that, Steve, because my Cowboys uncle I talked to you about, I've literally heard him say exactly that like multiple
I've
years.
believed it.
Super funny, like so that's right on the nose. Pretty funny.
I believed it last year. Like he started off last year fairly well from what I recall, and then uh just kind of I don't think he has much left in the tank in terms of being a primary back, and he doesn't have to be for the Patriots. I mean, Ramondre's excellent, but Zeke, what 5 carries, 13 yards? That's not surprising to me. Like that feels about right for what he has left in the legs, I think. And the Patriots' offensive line was absolutely atrocious run blocking today.
sure.
Yeah.
So anything on more on the game of the week? Uh, to me, it's kind of harsh for the Patriots to come out of their 2 games 0-2, and the Dolphins, like on the other flip side, came out looking very strong and they're 2-0. So a little bit harsh for the Patriots. That's all I'll
It
say about that. Yeah,
it's
Steve, you're saying something?
harsh. It's harsh, but wouldn't it have felt weird if the Patriots won that game? Like they definitely didn't deserve to win
Oh
that game, I
yes,
don't think.
yes,
Yeah.
correct,
So I get
correct.
what you're saying. Like I kind of feel like last week the Patriots maybe deserved to win that game against the Eagles a little bit more, but even
Mm.
then that would have felt very strange. So yeah, I mean,
It was like it was more like a .5 participation trophy. Well done.
Yeah,
of
I agree.
those equals 1 win. So that kind of that's how my
Who do
calculus worked.
who do
Yeah,
they
see,
play next week?
The Pats, they play, let's see,
I
the
got it.
Jets.
They got
So they should be
oh,
able to, yeah, like that should be their first win. And then they play the Cowboys week 4.
I thought the Jets played your guys well for the first like quarter or something, and then it just kind of blew out of proportion.
They had one
Cowboys, and when
play.
I say that, Cowboys, yes.
They had one play, I'd say, that was like a coverage bust that resulted in a long Garrett Wilson touchdown. But I don't know that they looked very strong. I do think it's hard to judge a lot of teams against the Cowboys defense just because like the Cowboys are game wreckers. Uh, Micah is a very scary man. Like today was quite terrifying. He had when he this first sack was just like a brutal sack, and then when he had his strip of Dalvin Cook on the sideline, I could like see it happening in slow motion, and I was like, he's not actually going to do this, and then he did it. So I feel like the Cowboys are one of these defenses where they're going to make everybody look bad.
For sure,
So
super
yeah,
strong. And maybe we talked about it in week 1, but I misjudged how good you guys can be this year, and I'm excited to see where you go. Knock on wood, like no injuries
yeah,
and stuff. Just solid, smooth sailing till the end. So that leads, like we talked about a couple teams, but that leads us to the next segment, which was uh, the NFL season overs and unders, right? So we have 2 games of knowledge. Armed with that data, we can now like see what our thoughts are on whether these over and unders assigned by a Vegas book are appropriate. Um, so we'll go by conference, and we'll start with AFC East. Any questions, guys? And like I mentioned off air, we're just trying to give me one sentence on what your thoughts are. You don't have to go over everything. If we all agree on one, there's no reason to talk about it really. But if we kind of disagree, then give me your reason why, and then we'll kind of move on. Brian, chime in when you can.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go. We'll start with AFC East. Miami Dolphins were predicted to win 10.5 games. Sebastian, was that high or low?
I think that's
I think
about right. I think they could get to 12. So yes, I think it's a
you-
good over under.
you're going over. Okay, I'm going
Yeah,
over. Brian,
Based off of what we've seen, I'd say over as well.
yeah,
They
yeah,
look very
2-0.
strong.
Like
I wouldn't have said that before the season started, but after these 2 wins, I think it changed my opinion. I would have said like 10 or 11 wins is fine, but 11 wins, that's what they have to get to beat the over. That's significant, right? It's going like 12-5, right?
They're
well,
already
yeah,
20% of the way there.
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
exactly.
they have to get to 11, but still they only have to go what 9 and what 9-6 in their remaining games. That feels pretty likely unless something horrible happens, which we all know what it is. But
So, let's move to the next one in the division, which is the New York Jets, and this is where we really get the benefit of the doubt with these 2 games. They were slated to win or at 9.5. The over and under was at 9.5
Is this after 2 games or at the beginning of the season?
at the
beginning of the
beginning of the
season.
season.
Oh, okay.
So we now know what's going to happen. So that's why I'm sure the line has changed, but just as a little game. So New York Jets were 9.5. I think we all go under, right? There's no reason to talk about this one.
I agree.
Yeah, might have gone under
Okay.
even before, but yeah, now it's definite.
Interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Bills 10.5. Brian, you go first. Whoa.
Uh
Bills is Josh Allen. They're
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good
yeah,
shooting.
yeah. I'm kind of neutral on this one, but I will say over based off of what I had seen in the first game.
It's to me, it's not possible. It's
They
like
lost the
not.
first game, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but they played
today
well.
Oh
they
yeah, my
no
bad,
they
my bad.
played pretty poorly. I'd say week 1, and then today they beat up a very bad team. So I kind of think it's not possible to compute based on data.
Okay. For me, I think they turn it around and they go over still. They're a good team. They just got Josh Allen just has these situations, right?
Yeah, it's
These
just
games
Jekyll
have
and Hyde, you know? That was
yes,
like very hard to
yeah.
tell.
He's a good quarterback, and I think he will do better. I'm going over on that one. So next one would be Patriots. So this is also we just fresh in our minds. Patriots were slated to win
Six and a
6.5.
half.
Yeah, I'll start. They're going
Yeah,
over. Though Belichick plus a good solid team, I would say is 7 to 8 wins. So I go over.
I
yeah,
agree. I, I don't think they'll
hard.
snowball that badly.
It's hard to imagine a Belichick team not winning 7 games at least, you know?
And just remember now we have 17 games, right? So it still
Yeah,
like takes me a second to like realize so there's one more game, right? Okay, so that concludes AFC East. Moving to AFC North, Baltimore Ravens, where we have them at 10.5. They started off pretty well, right?
yeah.
Solid win against the
I'd
Bengals
say
today.
I'd say over just because they're already 2-0.
They're
I
they're a solid regular season team. They just have a lot of difficulty in the playoffs, right? That's kind of my wrap on them.
Their offense looks better than it usually has in the past, which is a good sign, but they always get injured too, so it's hard to tell. I just said, yeah, I think over.
I'll agree. I'm quite neutral on this one. Again, they already have 2 wins also, like Sheep
Yeah,
said. So I'll go over also.
I go under. They are in a tough division, right? Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cincinnati Bengals. I think Bengals will get the second one back. Think, like Sieb said, they could get a little bit of injuries, and I think 10 is basically what they did last year, right? Weren't they 10-7? Is that right? I can't remember now, but it seems like what they're always around the 10-11 range, and
they
I
might have been a
think
game worse than that last year because Lamar missed most of the end of the season.
okay, fair. It's a little bit high. 11 puts them into that upper echelon of teams. I don't think they're really there in the top of the top, the creme of the crop, as they say. So, moving on, Cleveland Browns were 10.5 as well, and the Bengals are at 10.5. Just so we
Yeah.
know, so they have a lot of. You could call it the division of death.
It's supposed to be, I mean, hey, we'll get to you. You're leaving one team out, and to me, they're like the biggest mystery of this exercise. Uh, but we can talk about them in a second
So
because
let's
if
just lump these two together:
yeah,
Bengals and Browns at 10.5. I think,
Bengals are 0-2.
yeah,
yeah, I said no.
I'll go under based off of that. It's
I think they turn it around and Cleveland regresses. So I say Cleveland wins 10 and Bengals win 11 or 12 games. And
Yeah, I
then you
mean,
see, good.
Cincinnati offense has looked pretty shitty, honestly, so far. But yeah, last year they started 0-2 and turned it around, so who knows?
Yeah, I think Burrow's coming off the injury. They'll get better. For Cleveland, Deshaun is really like riding the high right now, but I think as the team start to refigure him out and kind of situate their defenses versus him, he might regress a little bit. That's what I don't hope or like, wish it. I kind of, as my dog Cosmo comes into the room, um, uh, or my sister's dog.
You have Cosmo for the day.
Yeah, yeah, my sister's here as well. So, uh, yeah, so that's why I think Cincinnati is going over and Cleveland's going under. And then last one I think Steve was alluding to was the Steelers, right? Tough read on the
Yeah,
Steelers.
I kind of lumped Cleveland and Pittsburgh into like I can't really tell yet because they've played one game. But if the Steelers look as bad as they did last week, they're not getting close to that number.
Think you don't think it was because SF was really good? The Niners were really good?
That's part of it, but like Pittsburgh's defense was atrocious, which is also like not supposed to be the case. Like I can understand Kenny Pickett struggling against the Niners defense, but the way that their defense was basically like zombies for most of the game was quite alarming to me.
Shanahan can dissect defense. No, that's kind of his specialty. Yeah, you just even with that.
They just didn't have a lot of fight, which was weird for a Steelers team.
Yes, that is true. Okay, they Steelers. If I didn't mention, I don't know if I mentioned they are. Sorry,
It was 8.5.
Pittsburgh. It's 8.5. That's going to be tough for them. I think they go at 7 or 8. That's where they a solid team.
Tomlin's never had a losing season.
Might be the first.
We said that for like a decade now.
Yeah.
And they
No,
always
he's a
just
great
find
coach.
a way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like him. He's old school,
me
right?
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like a blend of old and new school. He relates to his players really well, but has like old school mentality.
He gives off like high school coach vibes, just yelling at you at recess or something or tutorial, like on the boondoggy.
It's
But
funny because he was like the young gun when he came in, and I think he's now like either in his late 40s or 50s. I think he's probably in his
yeah,
50s, and it's just like, damn, like you are kind of old now, Mike. What happened?
he made it though. He's highly
Yeah,
paid coach, so everyone respects him. So good for him. All right, let's move on. Next one was Jacksonville, the Jags, 9.5. Brian, any thoughts on Jacksonville? This is Trevor Lawrence, right?
yeah.
It's tough because they're just 1-1 right now. I'm very neutral to this one. I'll just go with a gut feeling and say over.
So tough loss to the Chiefs today. I didn't get a chance to watch that one. Steves, what do you think about that one?
Their defense both teams' defense look solid. Offenses look kind of sloppy. I haven't really. I've watched both of Jacksonville's games actually because I was really interested in Anthony Richardson last week, and I haven't been that impressed. But somebody has to win games in that division, so I guess it's an over. But I'm not confident in it.
Okay. For me, Jacksonville. I think they win 10 games. I think they get back to it. Moving on. So if that wasn't clear, I'll take the over. Colts. Indy Colts at 6.5. I take the over. I think they start really slow, but then they'll probably win some scrappy games here and there, and that over the course of 17 games they can get to 6 or 7.
Is this a homer pick, dude?
It is. It is a little bit.
I would.
Well, like, good call. Yeah.
I went over. But if Anthony Richardson keeps getting like banged up, like he had to come out the game today for a concussion, I hope he's back next week, or I'm gonna be very sad. Then I say no. Like, but the Steichen Richardson combo, their coach and Anthony Richardson, it's been really good so far. So I said over.
Okay. Texans. So to me, when we looked at the list, the spoiler alert, the team with the lowest over and under was the Arizona Cardinals at 3.5. When I now looking at the Texans, I feel like if they readjusted the lines, the Texans would probably have the lowest.
I agree.
So at 5.5, I think that's easy money for us to take the under, which ironically is minus 105. So
I haven't been able to catch any of their games.
You
Why
haven't missed
is it
much.
an obvious? Why is it an obvious that if the lines were readjusted, they would be at the bottom? Do they just look like absolute trash or something?
Yeah, I mean they got blown out kind of today by the Colts, who are only expected to win one more game than them, which kind of shows
Okay,
that there's quite a
sure.
gap. Like it's not a great look. They weren't close in week 1 from what I recall either. So yeah, it's an under, I think.
So Gardner Minshew beat them, Brian. And that's basically what happened.
Okay.
He's a solid backup quarterback though.
Yeah,
Anthony Richardson really beat them. They had 17 points until he came out the game, and then they only put up 14 the rest. So
Okay, it was a tag team, but
Yeah.
that's kind of answer. I hope that answers your question. So next, let me bring it up. Sorry. Uh, Next one, we're moving to the AFC West. The Raiders. Raiders lost today, uh, and we had
We
the
missed the
match.
Titans.
Oh, you're right. Good call, Steve's. Titans at 7.5. They look better than I thought they would. I didn't
Feels like a
expect them.
lock to me, the over.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, good coaching. Same thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, Raiders are at
Was it?
6.5.
Yeah, 6.5.
So in a tough division, I guess maybe not with the Chargers sucking this bad. uh,
They're better than them, though.
you think?
Yeah.
That's tough for me to say as a Herbert fan, to hear rather.
No,
But
I'm saying
okay,
the Chargers are better than the Raiders by a large margin, I would say.
okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so yeah, so you have Chiefs and Chargers who figure to be better, and then you have Raiders coming in as the third team. Broncos are shit. I want to talk about that later because I watched some. I watched some of that game.
Broncos are better than the Raiders. That game was just an abomination that they lost week 1.
Well, okay, yeah. Uh, the, to me, the Raiders, aren't they running out Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, they're not getting over. I'll just
Yeah,
beat it to
Jimmy
that
them.
tells
G,
you.
dog.
So four or
Jimmy
five,
G, dog.
4, 5, or 6 seems appropriate for them. So I'll take the
I
under on
agree.
Sebastian. Brian?
I'll agree.
Okay. Let me close this. Moving on. So Chiefs, I think it's pretty easy for us to figure out what they are.
10.5 is what I have down. I think
No,
that's
like
an
yeah,
over.
I think it's
Yeah.
an over. So
I will
probably
go
Yeah.
12
over
or
as
13
well.
wins. Yeah. Let's not talk about it.
Even 11, like, wouldn't show, like, 11 to 13 seems in the realm of possibility, yeah.
Fair, totally fair. Chargers, we just talked about them. They are at 9.5, so they would need to get 10 or 11 wins. This could be tough for them, but I
I said
still see
under.
them at. You said under. Oh, okay. Tell us
Yeah.
why. What
I
worries you
think
about these first 2 games?
their defense isn't very good, and they piss away games still year after
Hmm.
year. So, like,
Typical, yes.
if you calculate, they have to get to 10 wins, and they're already 0-2. They have to go 8-7, and is that correct? Have I calculated? No, they have to go 10
They have
and
to go
10-5. I don't
10 and
see this
5.
team winning 2/3 of their remaining games. Like, the way that they squander games, it doesn't feel like they're going to get there. It feels like they'll get to, like, 9 or 8, like, every year they
Okay,
basically do, yeah.
so 9 or 8, and then that would put them in the wild card, right?
Or missing the playoffs, which would suck, but yeah.
Tough luck for them. Anything on the Chargers, Brian? Just they're down the street, or Herbert.
No, not too much more to add. I think I agree. I mean, it kind of sucks that they start off with zero wins, but I think they'll be fine.
So next team is Broncos, 7.5. Go ahead, Sebastian. Tell us about the Broncos, and while I collect my thoughts, we're gonna go off on them. Listening to the Commanders today.
That they've played really good first halves and then played some of the worst second halves I've ever seen. And I mean, you look at it and you're like, this team is not a 7-win team. Like, they're in the same range as the Chargers, but it's just been a disaster since Russ has been there. I mean, they made a coaching change and there's still same shit's going on. And I
He
don't know
played
that
well
it's
today, did he not?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. He had a few, like, unfortunate plays, I guess you could say, but he wasn't horrendous. And as a whole, they don't seem to be horrendous, but I think it's probably an under.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're gonna blow up, and unless they make the sort of cut the umbilical cord, so to speak, very quickly with him and move to their backup, who they're paid a
Stidham?
lot to. Stidham, yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's apparently paid a lot because they anticipate him moving in at some point, or just for the contingency plan of that. So yeah, I think they anticipate things not going well this year. Anything else on the Broncos, Brian? Anyone? Anything you want to say about them?
No, nothing to add on that.
Okay. So moving through this pretty quickly. Um, now we move to the NFC Cowboys. Cowboys were,
10.5.
ooh,
Oh,
yeah,
that's high.
I'm buying that over. That's a lock for me. After these two first games, pretty dominant performances. Yeah, I'll buy the over. Is that not
Yeah,
fast, Steves, do I?
I think it's an over. Yeah, I mean, they have like
I
either the
feel as though
best.
Seems is a realistic fan at least.
True.
So
Yeah,
so
they
if he truly believed under, he
Gotta give
wouldn't
him
say
credit for
under.
that. Gotta give him credit. Yeah.
yeah they have like the second best or best defense in football. Um, Granted, we haven't played a murderer's row of quarterbacks so far, but I do think it's probably an over.
Okay.
Yep, I'll agree.
Eagles are Philly
They're
Eagles.
high as hell. It was like 12 and a
11.5
half,
hot.
right? Oh, 11.5. Okay.
11.5. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I believe they have the highest odds. Over and
No,
under,
the
sorry. No,
Niners do.
Niners.
Yeah.
So close to second in the league. I still put them over at 12 or 13 wins. I think same thing. Maybe they repeat their success from last year, build the momentum. They haven't played that particularly well in the first two games, but they'll
Exactly.
pick it up. Yeah.
They've looked pretty mediocre, but I think over. Just they're winning games where they don't look good, which is usually a
Yeah,
good
they
sign.
came in looking like they were crushing the Vikings, right? Was it the Vikings last week?
Yeah, on Thursday.
And then
Yeah.
they like let him get back in the game, but I feel like
That's
that might
Kirk
have just
Cousins,
been
baby. What are you saying, Brian? You can't stop that magic. What are you saying?
Primetime Kirk always getting the backdoor cover.
uh, so moving on next to the Commanders. Uh, Commanders were 6.5.
6.5. That's a lock over for me.
Interesting, really.
They're already
They-
2-0.
Wow, I can't even believe I'm reading that they are 2-0. Yeah,
So
you're
you're
right.
like you basically have to say they're going 4-11 the rest of the way, which to me is not likely.
So the they figured to win versus the Bears. They have the Bears, and other than that, that's like their easiest game. Seems Bears and Falcons.
Let me take a
And
look at
other
the
than that,
schedule.
it's like pretty
The
tough
Falcons
games.
are fairly good. The Giants don't look very good, so I think they might be able to split one of those. You are right. That is they have the Jets too. They're better than the Jets, I'd say.
It's your Jets at the end. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
It
So
it
yeah, they
actually is quite
basically have to
challenging
go.
though.
They have to go 100% on the games they need to win to get to that 6, right? So it's tough. I'm going to take the under now that I look at their schedule. I like
Their
they'll
offense has looked
7
pretty
wins is a
good though.
lot. Yeah, so I go 6 wins for them. That seems appropriate.
Do you think their 2 wins have been like flukes or something, Ashwin?
Well,
No.
I think Broncos are shit. Like even though like Russ played well, like there's disarray there, and there's something needs to change. And the first one, I can't remember who the first one was.
The Cardinals. It wasn't the
Yeah,
Cardinals
yeah,
have been
Cardinals. Come on, man.
the
Yeah,
Cardinals have been putting up more fight than people expected though, I think. So I don't know. I definitely think the Commanders are a lock to go over, and like I said in our preview a few weeks ago, I think they're like a solid contender for one of those, like the 7 seed in the NFC.
I'll break
Okay.
the tie and go over. I
Okay.
feel like they can get 5 for the remaining rest of the season.
Brian, there's a finite amount of wins. Everyone can't go here. No, but I feel you. So let's finish this one and then we'll take a break. Giants probably going to be polarizing because I think I like the fight and I think they go over. Giants were 6.5,
6.5.
so I think they still go. Yeah, 7 or 8 wins seems appropriate for them. Maybe even if they really get their shit together, maybe 9. Dare I say 9? I don't. I hope too much.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Saquon got hurt at the end of the game today. I'm not
Yes.
sure what the severity of the injury is. I guess they're saying it's an ankle. So it's not as bad as what's caused them to miss a season before, but if Saquon misses any time, they're going to struggle to win even more than they have struggled
right.
so far. They're under
You're
to
right.
me. right now.
Damn. Okay. Brian, anything on them?
Haven't gotten a chance to catch any of their games. So I'm kind of neutral, but I will go with a gut and go under as well.
Attaboy.
Nice.
Okay. Let's take a break. We'll finish up the 3 last divisions. We're back with NFC North. Green Bay Packers over and under. So let's see. Green Bay was 8.5. Lofty expectations for a new quarterback. Fresh face. I think it's more of a reflection of like the team and support around him. Steve, what do you think about this one?
Love has looked better than people have expected, I think. It's a borderline one. It feels like they nailed that number. I'll go over by like
I'll go. Oh, go. Sorry.
barely. Yeah. No, it's
I'll go
barely
over as
going
well.
over. Yeah. Yeah.
Just as a nod to our friend Mr. Zarif. I was watching the game with him today, even though they lost. But he kept on going, it's the love era. It's the love
I don't know if that's gonna happen.
So just as a nod to our friend Aria, I'll go over it. You know, they look better than expected, yeah, with the new quarterback, and it seems as though things are meshing together from what I was able to see. So I'll go over.
So Lions, Vikings, Bears in their division. Bears are just awful. Vikings have started slowly. Lions, it's really a matter of whether you believe in the Lions hype, in the Lions story. Otherwise, the division could be considered pretty weak. And I could actually see them getting to 9 and winning the division. I don't know.
I think the Lions one is right on the money. It'll either be 10 or 11. So I'll probably go. I said the Lions was an over, but it's very. They kind of, outside the Bears, nailed the over-unders in this division, I feel.
Yeah, so let's talk about the division at all. Then, yeah, Bears were 6.5. Seems you mentioned Lions at 10.5. And then Vikings were at
7.5.
7.5.
Yeah.
So people really thought last year was a flash in the pan. Then
Well, every metric you look at says that. Yeah.
So I will take. I think once people realize they're not going to be the same team again, and expectations are lowered, that's when they'll rise above those lowered expectations. It's a classic ploy for the Vikings. So, and that's when Kirk Cousins shine. So I actually take the over on 7.5 for the Vikings. Bears, whatever it is, I'm taking under.
Yeah,
6.5. Yeah.
Know that they're gonna win 3 games.
Lions, I didn't know it would be that high because I know they were a good story, and didn't they start last year 1-6? Or would you remember, Steve, specifically what it was? And then they won a lot of games at the
They
end or
won
something,
their
right?
last 8 games, I believe. I don't remember exactly how they started, but
So people really believed that would translate in the way that they didn't think it would translate for Minnesota. So something along those there's some inconsistency. Yeah,
there's a Minnesota number that they had a negative point differential despite being a 13-win team. It's like historic. And then when you look at teams, I think they were 9-0 in 1-score games or something, or 9-1. And when you look at teams that have had that type of season the year before, they usually have some sort of a regression. But it does feel weird that the Vikings would only win 7 games. It's a strange one.
That seemed low to me.
Yeah, they're usually pretty middling, 8 or 9 at the worst. So we'll have to see with them.
So that's my general impression of division in whole, is that the Giants seem the Vikings seemed a little bit low, and that the Lions seemed a little bit high, and Packers just seemed just right, sort of like a Goldilocks situation. So Detroit Lions, I think, win 10, and they're at 10.5, correct?
Yeah.
So I take the under on the Lions. I take the over on the Packers. I take the over on the Vikings. I take the under on the Bears. You guys agree?
Vikings would be the only one I'm hesitant on, but I'll stick with you and say
Did you
over,
go under for Vikings, Ashwin?
I went over for
Over, yeah.
Yeah.
I would go over as well. So I'll agree.
Okay. Two more divisions real quick. Falcons, Bucks, Saints, Panthers in the NFC South. Falcons go 2-0 to start. Tampa Bay Bucks go 2-0 to start. Saints are 1-0. Panthers are 0-1. Falcons are at 9.5. So people think they're going to do well with what's this guy's name? This third round quarterback,
Desmond Ritter. It's
Desmond
more of a
Ritter.
bet
Yes.
on the running backs and the coach, I think.
So basically he should do what Mariota couldn't and just be a little bit better and a little more accurate. There's no other way to describe it. And like a little retain the ball a little bit more, and that'll be enough for them. That's their game plan with everything else built around them. And that gets you 10 wins.
It seems high.
I know it's a weak division, right? We talked about it in a couple weeks ago. Saints figured to look the strongest. Even still, that seems high. So I go under for Falcons. What do you guys think?
I went over just because somebody has to win the inter division games, and then you throw in a few more, they'll get to 10, which will just feel like a very strange thing that they'll have 10 wins.
I'm gonna go under.
Bucks at 7.5. So I think people are buying into the Baker hype. Is that what's happening?
Well, 7.5 was more, I think, a bet on the talent they have on the team outside Baker.
Started out 2-0. They're 1/4 of the way there, or a little bit more than that, but a little bit less than that. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going under though. I'm just not a believer in that team.
What would have to happen for that to change? Or are you just not believing at all?
Yeah.
I don't think I'll believe the whole year, and then they'll end up in the playoffs, and I'll be like, "Great, this terrible team's in the playoffs, and they're gonna lose round one," much like the Bucks last year.
Damn, that's a tough one for me. I go under. I think they win 7.
I'll agree.
Yeah.
So Saints were at 10.5. It's a solid team, 11 wins. It's a solid team for sure. I think they do it.
I think in the preview, I had mentioned it as like one of my favorite teams to go pretty far, so I'll go over as well.
I'm gonna say under by like a game, just because 11 wins after how their offense looked week 1 seems like a lot.
Okay, and then Panthers, last one.
That's an under for me.
What was it, teams? It was 6.5 under. Yeah, I think I agree with that one.
I'll agree.
Okay, last division. Let's just cruise through this one. NFC West, San Francisco 49ers. They had the highest. It was 12.5, I believe.
It's pretty damn high.
Yeah. People to me they seem like the favorites, early favorites, but we'll see how. Obviously, a lot of things happen over the course of a season, but pre-season and 2 games in, they're the favorites for me. So I go over. I think they win 13 or 14 games.
I agree.
I'll take it.
Nice. It's nice when we agree. Los Angeles Rams 6.5. McVay, can he coach them with a healthy quote unquote Stafford to 7 wins? Is it that implausible?
I also think it's an over. They look better than they were supposed to look, I think. So yeah, to me, it's an over.
Yeah. Seattle Seahawks at 7.5. There's some people think there must be a Geno regression second year. Coaches know how to play against him better. The book is filled out, so to speak, on what he's going to do and his tendencies. So maybe they think they want to do as well. What else has regressed in Seattle to make them think they'll do worse this year, Sebastian?
It's kind of shocking that it was so low. I think people just were betting on Gino going back to being Gino from New York. But and week 1 they didn't look good, but today they looked quite good against Detroit. So I think it's an over.
It's a big win versus Detroit.
Yeah,
I
at
think
Detroit.
as well. Yeah, 8 or 9 wins seems right for Seattle. Maybe they can get to 10. Brian, anything on that or the Cardinals? Cardinals were, as we said, the lowest at 3.5. So it's really, is there value above if they win 4 games? Is it possible for them to win 4 games? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
I'll stay under. I think they'll be like right at 3 or something like that. Honestly.
Okay, I think 3 wins is probably right too. As enticing as 3.5 is. Sebastian, what do you think?
Well, like they've looked better than
Feisty?
a dumpster fire, like they were supposed to look, but they have also played 2 teams who have big questions around them. So it's a hard one. 3 wins is so little, but like you said, there's a finite number of wins, so we'll go under an agreement.
Yeah, maybe some less of a middle class and more of a big boys and little boys this year. Is that
Maybe
fair?
they'll just look feisty in every game
In
and
the
still lose
NFC
most
for
of them.
sure.
Yeah, probably right. Okay, so that concludes our NFL season overs and unders. We'll check back, just like the winners and losers, probably once or twice during the season and at the end of the season. So thanks for doing that, guys. Got through them pretty quickly. Let's talk about some soccer, but we can do that after a break. All right, let's talk about some soccer, as the Europeans call it, football. Actually, the rest of the world. What am I saying?
You
Yes,
said that so sarcastically, dude.
only Americans
You
call it
said that
soccer.
like in like so facetiously, dude. Just like as they call it,
Well,
It's not called
football.
football in Vietnamese. It's called like some
I don't
form of
even know.
because I know basketball is like bongro or something like that. So I would assume
Why would
row
you
is
know
like
that? Let me look this
I
up.
just know this. It's something.
What the?
well, Brian looks that up. Me and Wasees will talk about Arsenal. They squeaked by Everton today. Very tense game. I was not happy
Was it
watching it.
tense?
It was because
It was a
we just
weird vibe to me.
weird vibe. The fact that Sean Dyche is their coach and he just sits to play like negative football, right? That's how he plays.
I feel like the whole vibe in the stadium was wildly negative, and it caused everybody to play like very the negative atmosphere kind of influenced both teams. I feel like it was so dead in there.
I think the reason is because every time they got the ball, Everton immediately lost it. Like, and that's a credit to us for pressing really well and like getting the ball back. But some of their players just have no touch at all. Like, it was like literally coming off
It
their shins and stuff, and like they just
feels
weren't.
like they didn't give a fuck. Like they didn't really put up much fight. Um, they had like 5 minutes where they seemed to be into the game. Uh, but yeah, it was very negative on their behalf. Like that aspect's true. Like they did defend fairly well, I suppose.
It was like that's what he does. He gets like 10 players who just are tall and athletic, and he sits them in front of the goal and says, "Occupy space." And it's tough for like it counters a team like Arsenal. That's why it always worries me. That's why I said it was tense. I could have seen us pressing really late from minute 70 to 90, trying to get a goal, and then them just hitting on a counter and stealing a win. It's the script for a lot of those teams who sit back in a low block.
Not
So
for them.
that's maybe not for them. Yeah,
Not
it's
this
sad
year,
because
no.
they were once. I mean, like you said, they haven't been out of the Premier League, and they're always now in the last 2 or 3 years. They've been maybe even longer. They've been fighting relegation battles every year. Sad. And for Arsenal, Raya gets his first start as an Arsenal player, clean sheet, plays really well, doesn't misplace a pass, and he catches the ball much better than Ramsdale. So
I liked what I
I saw,
saw. Didn't really think he was tested very much, but
of course, course.
so it's hard to get too good of a read, but I did like what I saw. I agree.
So it was two things on that was that he's the perfect type of player you want to play against a team that does the low block because he can just play it as like a sweeper, and you effectively have now 11 players on the pitch out there doing stuff, and he's really good at like stopping counters and stuff. So the second point was that someone said that Arteta plans to play Ramsdale in Champions League as his reward for getting second place last year. So he's going to play Wednesday at PSV, and Raya got to start now. To start
Arteta
today.
also said something really funny where he said,
I
"Maybe
saw
I'll
that. Go
just
ahead though. Say.
substitute goalkeepers. Nobody ever does it, but somebody's gonna do it one day." And I've always thought this was a tactic that could be employed, but maybe I'll be the one to do it. And I laughed really hard at it. I was like, "That's such an Arteta thing to say."
It was more like the regret that he didn't have the balls to do it, and he's like, "Ah, man, if I was a bigger
Yeah,
man, I would have done it." Like that type of vibe. Yeah. I don't think like we need to talk more about anything,
I would
any other team. All the other fixtures in Premier League were pretty standard, except two. Uh,
I would say
one
one
was of
thing about
course.
the Arsenal match was
Sure, go ahead.
I thought that we were thrown off when Martinelli went off pretty early. It felt like there was less urgency in the attacking third for a while.
True, true. But Vieira, who got his start today in place of Kai Havertz, played well. And then just Declan Rice, dude, he's such a good like. It's
Yeah, he
rare
was
that a
phenomenal.
player comes in immediately justifies the money. Like everyone thinks it's overpriced, and he immediately bosses the midfield. And like he was doing two men's job in a pivot today, and it basically did the same thing. So like really well done by him. Vieira played well. Should have got an assist. I don't know what the ruling on that offside was, but just to continue on, I didn't think anything in the Premier League was that significant except two games, and then we can kind of move on. Same thing with La Liga, and I think Bayern tied
That was a great game.
Xabi Alonso's team. I can't
Never,
pronounce it.
never Bayer Leverkusen, aka Neverkusen,
Oh,
because they
it's
never
not
ever finish
Morgan
first.
Dog and Block. It's Leverkusen. Okay, yes, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
um,
2-2.
yeah, they came from behind twice. But it's Neverkusen for a reason. Like they're mounting a challenge now, but we'll see how it goes in the long run.
They produce good players. They have good academy, so I just hope they like do well. And I like Xabi Alonso a lot. He's one of my favorite Real Madrid players. So the two games I wanted to talk about in Premier League were one Chelsea Brentford tied.
Oh, I didn't. I have two different games that I thought were yeah, or I didn't
Well,
watch
the
Chelsea
other one I
Brentford.
think we both knew was Brighton Manchester United, right?
Yeah,
So that's the one we need to talk about. So he plays Ten Hag. That is, he plays a little bit of a different starting 11. He plays McTominay with Ericsson as the kind of the 6-8 pivot. They were like rotating, and they both got burned, each on each side. Covering for their fullbacks. He takes out Wan-Bissaka, puts in, I can't remember who was played on the right, but basically it didn't work out. And same thing, just knock the ball up and like try to get it to Rashford and hope he scores. They haven't evolved at all, and to be honest, their players aren't that good. They should be a Europa League team, in my opinion. They overachieved, and now they're kind of in a weak year last year, and now they're coming back to earth. I think they should be fifth or sixth place, and it's weird because they do spend a lot of money, but I just don't think their players are good.
I don't think they fit with what Ten Hag is trying to do, and I think
Articulate that.
Rashford.
What is he trying to do? Like what is his style for like the casual listener? What is Ten Hag's style? And like at Ajax and going forward, like what is Ten Hag trying to do? Because on the Sky after show, they're talking about how each of the United managers had like a distinct style of player, and they wanted to bring them back. Louis van Gaal was left-footed center backs. Mourinho was like Pogba and Lukaku counter-attacking players, and Ole was bringing back like legends like Ronaldo. So like, what do you think, Ten Hag? What is his type of player, and what is he trying to do there?
I think I don't have a specific thing in mind. It does seem like he wants more activity off ball and players who are more active in their pressing. Like I think Rashford oftentimes doesn't do much when he's off the ball, and it causes them to be pretty open for counterattacks. I think that was pretty evident against Brighton. Just he does produce moments of magic for them, but I do think he in particular is a really bad fit for what Ten Hag's trying to do. Um, I
But he
was
relies on him so heavily. He's
I
their
know
only
because
offensive outlet. Like
it's bizarre. Um, I think that result wasn't surprising to me. Like Brighton to me are really smart. I've liked how they've played the last 2 seasons, and so it just felt like they exploited everything that United was pretty bad at on the counter. Uh,
Casemiro,
uh,
they exploited. You can say it. They exploited
yeah,
Casemiro basically. Like
yeah,
he was
that was a
torn to
weird fit
shreds.
from the get go, though. Like he's had a few good moments with United, but I was never big on that fit with them. It kind of felt strange at the time. And they spent pretty big for him, or was he a free transfer? I don't really remember.
No, they spent for him.
Yeah, I thought they spent quite a lot for him, and I don't know. I don't really like seeing Casemiro in the Premier League. I feel like it's a waste.
He's a little like I have no problem saying he's a little bit past it. That's one thing.
Yeah,
Two is he needs an industrious 8 next to him. Like it was Luka Modric who never stops running in Real Madrid. It was Tony Cruz who never misplaces a pass, and then like here he is, Scott fucking McTominay.
hey.
And uh, he has Ericsson, who's like a decent player, but he's not a world beater. So he needs a better player. Why? You're a big Scott McTominay fan?
He does well for the national team.
Oh, okay, I see. He's
Yeah, he
Scottish.
plays. Yeah, well, he was born in England, but he plays for the Scottish national team. I think because his dad was Scottish. He's done well.
Yeah, and you're right. I don't know, but can't speak to that. But to your earlier point about Brighton, they are a fantastic team, and I think I mentioned in a pod before. Like they know their right role. Matoma is fantastic. The Grobe guy, Grob
Gross.
Groves, he's really good. Like he's a true midfielder out and out. And their team like costs less than 20 million. I keep seeing that around. They're getting players for 900 and 700,000 and turning them into like 30, 40, 50 million dollar players. Amazing
They're
stuff
kind
from
of like
Brighton
the Leipzig of the Premier League.
with a fantastic coach who
Yeah, I
will
like De
probably move
Zerbi a
on
lot.
soon. He's probably going to get a big. I could see him at a like. Dare I say like a Man U or like a PSG or something like pretty soon. You know. So I was the one I was like I thought would be funny is if he went to Man U because Man U to me is the like quintessential counter-attacking like quick outlet team when they're at their top at their prime. The Rooneys and the Scholes playing those forward passes, Ronaldo's and the Nanis coming through, and even before that, like even greater players. So yeah, I think he could work well with them. And apparently, a big factor of De Zerbi is his ability to like get guys to know where to pass, like immediately when they have the ball. So it's very fluid passing. Everyone knows I need to be here when this guy's here, and it creates these triangles, which are very pretty to watch. Um, okay, nothing else really on soccer, Steves, unless
You
you,
wanted
you
to
want to talk about more game.
Well, you wanted to touch on
Good.
Chelsea, Bournemouth, and I didn't get a chance to catch it. Yesterday was very exhausting, so I didn't watch it yet. But what did you see
No,
from it? Because I am looking forward to watching it.
like I mentioned before, if Raheem Sterling's your best attacker, it's not going to go well for
Poor
you.
guy.
And they can't score goals. They can't score goals. That Nicholas Jackson fellow is a good player, but he's too raw. And they don't get goals from midfield. Like I think putting Enzo Fernando a little up makes them. And their formation, they play 5 at the back. It seems kind of backwards, or like you could call it 3 at the back, but it it shows weakness, and then they don't have the quality in the middle of the park either. Besides that guy, Enzo Caicedo's been hurt or poor. Like he's been terrible the first 2 games. So like they have a long way to go. I don't see them making Champions League this year. That's all I'll say about that.
No, that seems very unlikely.
And yeah, Okay, that's it. All I
I
had
just
for
wanted to
soccer.
say,
Yeah,
it was to talk about the City match. They look kind of vulnerable in the first half, and then this Doku character came out of nowhere in the second half and was just
nice goal.
unbelievable. What? Yeah,
Nice goal.
and
I
he
saw.
was
Yeah.
his pace really like injected new life into them, and after that, it felt like it was like a foregone conclusion that they were going to win 3-1 or 4-1.
Haaland scores again.
It
Yeah,
was a
they
funny game from him though. He had so many pretty
flubs.
routine misses that he would, normally make, and then he finally broke through.
That's what we need. That's what we lack is the center forward who's willing to take a shot. Like Eddie runs around a lot and he makes nice 1-2s and stuff, but you just need someone who's going to put a foot behind it and like try. Because like Odegaard's the only person who does that. He's willing to take a shot, and like no one else seems willing to take a shot. Even Saka, he's just a lot of
Vieira
pull back.
today,
Yeah, he took a couple. Yeah,
Vieira needed to actually make a few extra passes today, I'd say, and we could have had 2 more goals.
hmm. He
But it
did
was
well.
fine. He played
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah. I'm happy for his debut. Okay, so next segment was Brian's segment of choice. You wanted to talk about? I'll let him describe. Brian.
Yeah.
What was
Essentially,
soccer in Vietnamese first, though?
it was bong da,
Bong da.
which was literally just means like ball kick, or like like you're
So
kicking a
nice.
ball,
To the
Bong is
point. I like
ball.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, for sure.
And da means kick, yeah. So
Nice.
that's the
Love
summary
that.
for that. Yeah, I mean, just talking a little game update. I guess that's
Yeah.
I've been
Oh,
talking about a lot of game stuff recently, but if you guys had heard, there's been a lot of backlash going towards Unity because they recently did a new change in their pricing policy for developers. And just for more context for people who might know, Unity is a game engine, so you can make games. Some very popular games have been made on it. Some notable ones are like Genshin Impact, like Cuphead, some so pretty large games. And what they did was they changed their pricing policy for developers using their engine so that what their original subscription model was that you would just pay a subscription to be able to use it and publish games. And if you were like a more successful company, let's say making over $1 million, you just have to pay a higher subscription. But they changed the pricing model so that it would become you would have to pay per download of your game, even if that download is not attached to a sale. And when you would run the numbers, essentially there would be some companies that have more downloads than they have actual sales and things like that. And some very small indie studios under this new change would actually have to pay more than their game has actually made. And so there's always been a lot of competition between Unity and Unreal, which is another popular game engine. And a lot of these game companies small studios are essentially saying like, there's just no point for us to use this anymore. And it's ruining the goodwill of a lot of developers. And it has gotten so bad that there have been like death threats or like bomb threats to the Unity offices, so that they had to close down for a few days. And the thing that makes it all sketch altogether is that the CEO of the company, before they made this announcement of the pricing change, he sold a bunch of his stock. So he knew it was gonna, yeah. So it's just like super
oh my
sketch,
God.
right? Like everything is just like a sketch all around. And it's just ruining like the goodwill of developers. And Unity has always been like the better price point engine, and that you can make games if you're broke. I personally have used it to do like 3D things and like 3D projects as well. And even I would have to, like, even though like I'm basically making no money, like under the new thing, I would have to pay a little bit and things like that. So it's just kind of crazy. I'll open up the floor. You guys have any questions or any initial thoughts to it, or any clarifications?
I have one question: does this restrict Unreal to being used by the big guys? Basically, is that what is the core effect? Will big
Unity,
guys?
you mean?
Yeah, Unity. So,
Essentially, yes,
so
because
the only people who can purchase their exorbitant fees and afford to like eat the downloads and not purchases are these bigger companies who have a lot of money. Is that fair?
yeah, that's correct. And Unity's stock has been plunging as of recently, and so people just see it as like a desperate move to make it so that they're not a failing company essentially. And the
I
CEO has kind of been running the company into the ground, like a lot of logistical changes and that have made the product worse. And this is just kind of another step in his already very poor
so
tenure.
that's the second thing I want to talk about. So I did some research, like to just hammer down your point. I have the numbers, Brian. So shares opened at $75 last year. It spiked as high as $201 before
Right.
plummeting to 30 this
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
below
Yeah.
30 this year, and then they did something with Apple, which even hit them harder. And then in May they started reducing, uh, having layoffs, and then to show the desperate. Second thing Brian said was about the desperation of like all their moves seem very desperate, and the CEO selling stock before he knows it's going to be plummet is even like another desperation sign. So like he wants to get as much out of his money.
It just seems
That
corrupt,
could be way
honestly.
worse. Yeah, that's way worse than desperation. That's like borderline criminal. It feels like. Um,
Yeah.
But,
I
like he
read
knows he's. Go ahead, Seeps.
uh,
Yeah.
I read that like people were trying to counter it by like disabling ad monetization for Unity. Like,
Mhm.
is that even going to do anything, or is this just like a shit show basically already?
It's
Like,
probably
what?
more so it's just kind of a shit show, and that is they're just trying to do anything they can, really, right? But it's honestly not gonna do much in the big picture, I think.
So my thing on the CEO is this guy's. His name is John Ricciello. Is that it, Brian?
Yeah, yeah. Or I don't
So
know how to pronounce it exactly, but yeah, that's
yeah,
the
same,
guy.
same. It's a he started at Clorox and PepsiCo, but like the one I saw on his resume is that he was at EA twice, and then he moved to Unity Technologies afterwards. So he's like a true. He's not like a true gamer or like someone who is for the product or like for the game. He is a true corporate executive
Yes,
who's come
exactly.
through and now has been tasked with fixing Unity stock prices, and he's doing it in the best way he can. And I think it goes to like a point. I think I mentioned it before on the spot. I can't remember like when product people stop running the company and it goes to like these corporate MBA CFO types who are just trying to extract everything out of a company just for the stockholder price or like the stock price. That's when the company starts to crumble, and I see the end for it. So I'm worried for Unity because, like you said, Brian, it spawns a lot of games that are important. Well, not so much to me. Like maybe I didn't see anything like any games that I would play, but those are very important games. Genshin to like Andrew, and like Among Us is very. I know is very
Right.
very popular. These are
Popular.
big games, and just for the video game developer of the future, the kid who wants to play and make these cool games, he needs to have access and not worry about those type of things. So, Seems
This
anything?
John Riccitello guy seems like a fucking piece of shit, but also he's
Why does
he
it
was
say
on
that?
E. I just looked it up. He was on EA's board from like '97, or he was their VP in '97 to like 2004. Then he came back to EA later, and like he was involved with EA Sports at like some of the times where EA arguably ruined sports video games.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Seems
yes,
exactly. Yes.
he seems like I hate this guy without even knowing who he was until now. Um,
Yeah, it's a lot of
Also, he's on a
oh, sorry,
USC
sorry, go
School
ahead.
of Cinematic Arts board, by the way.
Oh,
So
is he?
shout out to our alma mater. Even though we were School
No,
of
dude.
Cinematic Arts people, and he graduated from Cal, is on the Haas Business School board as well.
Yeah.
I always feel like whenever it comes to USC alumni,
It's always
never a great picture. Yeah, it's never a great
He's a
picture,
Cal
man.
alumni. He's Andrew's
he's a
Andrew's
Cal alumni.
Or not
Yeah,
alumni, or like I'm the board, I guess. I guess
yeah.
associates of USC never seem to be the greatest of people, let's say.
Mohammed Morsi,
Yeah, I don't
OJ. He's not a
Yeah,
board
and
member, but he should have been.
yeah, they're starting to it's kind of funny because they released a statement, and people thought it would be a statement about them rolling back potentially some of the changes, but they basically said, like, fuck you guys. And it basically said, like, these are the changes, and you guys are kind of overblowing who's going to be affected by it. And people are saying, like, no, like, I have the data. Here is what I would actually have to pay under these new rules. And what it does, and to your point earlier, Ashwin, about having to eat the smaller developers having to eat the costs, like, there is because it's attached to how many times people have downloaded your game and not how many times it's actually sold. There are situations that internet trolls could continuously download a game of a small studio, like they buy it once and just download it, 100 times, or have a bot run it X amount of times just to like fuck over a small studio, right? So it just doesn't make a lot of sense in the big picture. And even if they do roll back some of the changes now, I feel like so much of the goodwill has been destroyed. And I'm actually wondering, I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine in the long run, but at least for now, as a person who has used Unity, I wonder if even I will just move to Unreal, because it just seems to be better, better pricing. And Unreal has always been the more, let's say, like luxury one, has like a better graphics engine.
Mhm.
But Unity was just always more accessible. But there's almost no point of using Unity anymore. So we'll see if it exists.
So I feel like something will always come from the shadows or like out of the ground and sprout up and like replace it. People, a lot of these companies overstep their boundaries. They don't realize like how much public sentiment can sway and like ruin your company. The CEO types who don't know, like, who either don't care or they don't listen to their PR people, and like they do these type of things, not worrying about the backlash and how it could affect everything. So
Yeah, for sure. It kind of going back to that point of like MBAs destroying things. This is kind of a thought I
current
have,
trend.
not just within like this particular situation, but working in tech, for example, working with products. This always tends to be the issue of just trying to extract the most monetary or financial value without any consideration to users or people who are actually using your product. It's all of these financial models that they've learned. They learned at Yale or something that's really disconnected from how people actually use the things, and I hate it. I'll say that.
Well said. Well said.
As somebody who has worked in tech or works in tech, I dislike it because I've been ordered around by these people. So,
Steve, do you want the last word before we move on?
No, I mean, I've contributed what I've learned about this John Riccatello guy, and I'm kind of disgusted that people like that just like continually go around and ruin shit for the bottom line, and eventually they end up like losing their job and moving on to something else. And it just seems like it's like this incestuous cycle of them going from company to company, ruining consumer experience. And just they don't even do a good job. Like, he got sacked from EA because he was not bringing in value. Like, he was not meeting projections. And then he comes back and he goes somewhere else and he seems to be struggling again. So he ruins the consumer experience again.
I was going to say on this. So I actually think, like, isn't there a certain type of CEO who's supposed to come in, enact all the unpopular changes, take all the hate, and then ultimately get fired, but then they get fired with a fat compensation package? Like, isn't it happen like frequently in Reddit and stuff? I think that was the example I was
for
thinking about.
sure.
Like,
Yeah, it does
they are the
happen.
specific types of people who do this on purpose, and like they come to be the bad guy, and they don't care, and they just get paid really fat for it.
But he seems to not even be good at that, is my point.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
like he's not even actually changing for positive. Like, if this is like a long-term thing where it actually bring more positive change, but if you're losing users, that's like the worst thing. You know what I mean? Like, and bad sentiment, bad PR. So I don't know.
So up to you, Brian. Do you think we covered it effectively?
Yeah, I think so. It's just something that's been hot in that area, and I do know somebody that does work at Unity and in SF, and she was just telling me about how they basically said stay home because what he got in the email said there's a credible threat of violence.
Oh,
So everybody should stay home for the next few days. And it's like, dude, that's pretty sketch, So, and it's also losing a lot of favor with employees too, right? Because employees work there because they care about the product. No, not everybody, but a lot of people would want to work there because it has always been an engine that supports small developers, and now it just seems like they're screwing them over. So that's kind of my last thoughts on that.
For sure. We'll come back with top 5 of the week and Bool or Bust. All right, we're back. Top 5 this week was from Brian, and then we got Bool or Bust and Song of the Week coming to you from Sebastian. Top 5. Why don't you introduce it, Brian?
Yeah, so it's top 5 food cuisines. Just for clarity, it's just a region or a country or something like that. Maybe one day we can get a little bit more deep into the individual dish, but just as an intro and to get people's like thought juices going, just the region for now. But yeah, top 5 food cuisines.
Who's
Should I start?
first? Yeah, tell us who's first.
Ashwin, you can go first.
Okay. So a little more vanilla than yours, I'm sure, both of you guys's, but
Oh,
yeah, I'll
I don't
start
think
with.
mine's that crazy.
Okay, I'll start at 5. I have K barbecue, Korean barbecue. I would love it. We went recently, Brian. It was okay. Like to me, like the combination of just meat with like a little bit of salad is a good combo. You don't need to have it like tons of rice or carbs and stuff. Just good quality meat with a little bit of salad to make it go down easier is fine. Then I go for number 4. I have American barbecue, i.e., the ribs, the pulled pork, the brisket. With all the fixins such as you guys will laugh at me. The cornbread, the mashed potatoes, the mac and cheese, coleslaw type vibe. I'm a big fan of that.
Cornbread's very vanilla, Ashwin.
There you go.
Not
There
worth
you
mentioning.
go.
I like cornbread. I like cornbread though. I do like cornbread though.
Maybe you haven't had good enough, dank enough cornbread,
Yeah,
Brian.
maybe.
Yeah. Number 3, American Chinese, a la Panda Express type vibe. The cream cheese wontons,
Good
the
food.
egg rolls and
That is
stuff.
good food.
Number 2, I have Mexican. Not fast food Mexican, but authentic, semi-authentic Tex-Mex is kind of what my favorite type of Mexican is. Last, I have Mediterranean/Greek. It's my easily my most favorite food. I get that like a couple times a week.
Yeah, I just had it the other day. It wasn't bad.
What do you
I
get?
do like
Lava?
Mediterranean.
Donergy.
Mm.
Donergy's
Really?
bomb.
You like Donergy?
I think it's good. It's
I think it's
whatever.
good.
I think
maybe the one time I had it was not good, but maybe I'll maybe give
I
it
would
another
agree
try.
with you. I didn't have it for a while, and then this past weekend, I was like, it was because I normally just order one of the foods on my list every Saturday, but I was like, I ate it the night before with Brian, kind of. So I was like, I probably should not order that today. So,
Oh, I see.
and
Okay, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I switched it up for once, and it was satisfactory.
Okay, so that's my top 5. Nothing too fancy, but everything I can get here in SoCal, it's pretty easy to get.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
All right. Who's next?
Should I go?
Yeah, Sebastian, you can go. Yeah.
All right. So number 5, I have Taiwanese food. I'm a big fan of like Taiwanese breakfast foods when you're over there. They have very good options. Big fan of like the zongzi, sticky rice dumplings, and street food in general in Taiwan is excellent. Very overlooked food place, I'd say, for a lot of people. Number 4, I'm gonna go with Shanghainese food. I'm a big fan of like Shengjian Bao. They're like the bigger Xiao Long Bao. It's like a version of that but bigger. They have this eel dish that's delicious in Shanghai, and the frog is also very good over there. 3, the last 3 it gets hard. So 3, I had like Uyghur food or Xinjiang food from that region. Big fan of like the hand cut noodles and the soup that you get. They have delicious lamb skewers. Just I'm a big fan of like the Muslim Chinese fusion that results in that region's food. Number 2, we're gonna go with Iranian food. I think would be unfair of me to not put Iranian food on this, honestly, because I think we have like the best stews.
Kubide, bro.
Kubide is great for a lot of people.
Not for you.
I like kubide. It's just it wouldn't probably crack my top 5 Iranian dishes.
Okay.
It'd be like top 10 maybe, but there's so many good dishes. I mean, my only qualm with Iranian food is that it's not spicy enough usually, and I'm a big fan of spicy food. So I have to be in a certain mood, I guess, since I just prefer to eat spicy food every meal, pretty much. But I do love Iranian food still. And then number 1 is an easy one. It's Sichuan food. I love the mala spice. Could pretty much eat it every meal if it wasn't like mildly. I think my stomach would not do great if I ate it every meal.
Yeah.
That's like the only thing I'd say. Like I can handle it once or twice a week, but other than that, I'm not sure. But that's easily my number one. And then for honorable mention, I had Korean food. Big fan of Korean barbecue, obviously, and then also really like sundabu and all the appetizer dishes they have. Korean food is excellent. So that was my top five. And I thought it was going to be funny because I just basically picked 4 regions of China. And,
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. Is, is there?
And then the food of the motherland was
Yeah.
able to make an appearance on the list.
Yeah, I would
I
have
was
felt
gonna-
I could have been like a total ass and not done it and just done 5 Chinese places or regions of China, but I thought it would have been too tongue in cheek.
No other type of Asian food besides K barbecue. You don't like
I love
Japanese
Thai
or
food.
Thai
I
food,
love them
okay, yeah.
both, but
That's
they don't.
Thai's a huge miss by me. Yeah, damn, that would be my
Yeah,
honorable mention actually.
Thai would
Thai food would
be
be my
second honorable mention for me after Korean food probably. I do eat a lot of Thai food, and yeah, I love Japanese food, but I feel Japanese food is kind of like bland comparatively.
Mhm.
okay. A very Sebastian list, but unique to him, which is what we want. Okay, Brian, you.
Yeah, so for my list, at number 5 is Korean food. I think everybody echoed. Just I like Korean barbecue. I like the soups. I think they have great soups that are always good to have, especially with the side dishes. At number 4, I have Mexican food. It's probably a product of being from Southern California and just enjoying. Honestly, I like Mexican food, whether it's shit like Taco Bell or actual authentic Mexican food. So all wide ranges. I'm a big fan of just great street tacos, especially in LA during a night out or something like that. I think street tacos are always a welcomed thing. At number 3, I also have Sichuan food. I think
Nice.
similarly, if I could eat it more, I would. But I always feel like I have like a stomach ache, and I need to like coat my stomach with some, I don't know, like dairy. I don't even know what the right way to go about it is. But
I don't know
sometimes
if
whenever I
dairy
eat,
mixes well.
yeah, I don't know, dude.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
a reach.
I
I
understand
don't
what you're
know.
saying, though.
Yeah, I need to like figure out. Maybe it's just Tums or something, dude. Maybe that's the that's the defense against it. At number 2, I have Japanese food. I'd say my favorite food is actually sushi, but just as a whole cuisine, Japanese food is number 2. I like curries. I like the general range that they have within their food products. I think they have great seafood. But I'd say the thing about Japanese food is it's actually not that diverse. They have several things like curry and like bento boxes, sushi, ramen, and udon. Obviously, there's a lot, but I feel like it's not as diverse as other things that I do like. And then and then number 1 is Vietnamese food. I guess just food of the motherland. I do enjoy the most, especially like family home cooking. I just recently went to a family gathering, and it made me realize how much I like miss and love Vietnamese food because I haven't been eating so much. And then my honorable mention was Thai food as well. So that would be my top 5.
Apologies for you may have seen me getting very excited.
Yeah, what's going on?
I have the Steelers defense in fantasy, and they just got a pick 6. So pretty happy about that. But yeah, solid list. I think I agree with what you said about Japanese food. That was like what kept it off for me. Like I do
Yeah, it
love
can
all
be
their food,
bland.
but yeah.
You are muted, Mr. Ashwin.
Very straightforward top 5 cuisines. A good one, a good solid foundational top 5 for us, Brian. Well done.
Yeah,
Yeah, it gives
yeah. I mean, of
background for the
course, I
listeners.
love the yeah,
Sorry,
of course.
Six?
I
Go
said
ahead,
that gives
Sebastian.
You
background
said
for the
something?
listeners.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it shows our personalities. Of
Yeah.
course, 4 out of 5 of mine are just Asian food, and honestly,
I've never seen you eat Mexican ever, Brian.
Yeah,
No,
what?
Brian
Come
loves
on.
Mexican
I
food,
don't.
dude. I've
I love
known this.
Mexican
I don't.
food, dude.
I don't think you ate Mexican in Cancun.
No, okay, yeah, right. I had no choice, dude. It was because I was too sauced. That's
I
why,
actually
dude.
don't remember you
Look
eating.
at
I
that.
actually kind of agree with Ashwin. I don't really remember you eating Mexican food in Cancun.
I think I was just my bodily functions were going to other things, I guess, dude.
The
I
only
do
reason I'm
overlook.
giving
Yeah, I do
go
overlook
ahead.
Mexican food.
Yeah. The
It's
only reason I'm
very.
giving Brian a little bit of shit is because whenever we go to eat, I've never ever heard him recommend like a Mexican restaurant or a non-Asian restaurant, and I give it for this all the time. So I was very surprised to see Mexican on that list.
Hey, almost
Brian's a
there,
healthy
man.
guy. He's trying to
Yeah,
be a healthier guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
Now,
okay.
yeah.
it's
Kudos,
quite
more
hard.
power to you.
Yeah,
More
it's
power
hard
to
to
you.
be healthy with Mexican food, I feel.
Yeah.
It's
Pending.
hard to be food with a lot of this. Hard to be healthy with a lot of this food, honestly. You know, this is all of our foods are like foods of. I don't know much about Sebastian's food, but like American barbecue, American Chinese are foods of indulgence. So I'm just the king of self-indulgence. Wasn't that something Brian used to say? Yeah.
Not
I
me.
think
People
we
used to
called
call
him
me
that.
the king of something. Yeah, you guys call me self-indulgence.
Yeah, bring it back. The real
So whack.
KSI.
That's so whack, dude.
The real KSI.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, very good. Okay, let's move to Bool or Bust. Unless anything else on cuisines? Any more honorable mentions?
No, I think we're good. I actually have a quick question for you. Is when you say American Chinese food, it's specifically not Chinese food. Chinese
Well,
food.
look, to be honest, I'm not into like a lot of the authentic dishes in the same way I'm into like an orange chicken. So it is
Okay.
strictly American Chinese in my
Fair
opinion.
enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair
Did you
enough. All
have
right.
Indian on your list?
I did not. I don't
Ooh.
like Indian food. Yeah.
Whoa.
I think anybody who knows me, like in this our inner Indian community, knows that I'm not big on Indian food. And there's like I will eat one combination of dishes, and that's like tikka masala with garlic naan and some raita. Like that's my go-to Indian, and it's not even Indian; it's British. You could call it. I think
Yes,
that's
it
a
is.
better term. So, like growing up, I had so many of these subjis like every day. Like my mom was working, so she would cook at the beginning of the beginning of the week, sorry, and then we'll have the same dish for like 3 or 4 times. I got so sick of eating like dal every night and stuff,
That's fair.
or like subjis or something. I don't know, just over it.
What's subjis?
So it's like it's a broader term for like Indian vegetables, spiced vegetables or something. So it
Oh,
could be like
okay.
the cauliflower or the dal or like okra or something. I don't know.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Let's move to Bool or
I didn't have
Bust.
Scottish food, so I can
Yeah.
reconcile. Yeah, Scottish food's not good.
That's fair. Brian didn't have Vietnamese food, right?
I
So-
did. It was my number one. It was my number one.
Yeah.
Oh, was it really? I missed that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Listen, it was my number one, dude. I love Vietnamese food.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, Brian's the only one who has culture. Okay, sorry. Let's move to Bool or Bust. So I have 2 busts. I can start. I think they're fairly straightforward. One is kind of comical, and one is about a sport. So for bust, my first bust is Chobani flips. Have you guys had those?
I know Chobani, like the yogurt brand.
I
Yeah,
feel like I have had Chobani flips. Explain it again. Like what it
So
is.
what they do is instead of having the little circular cup of yogurt for Chobani, they basically cut it in half, and half of it is yogurt and half of it is a topping, and they're more like dessert oriented, like
Yes, I've had that.
Oreo or cookies and cream, not cookie dough or strawberry cheesecake or whatever, you know, these type of flavors. And so I used to get them and have them every morning, take them to work, and then the problem is while they taste good, you can't get any of like the topping into the yogurt without spilling everywhere. Like I've put in like spoons, and the minute you put in spoon, like half of the thing falls out. I don't know who designed it, and I wish I had a prop for you guys to show you how it looks. But anybody who's had Chobani flips knows that it's very difficult to get in. Like if you get the cookie dough one, to put in a spoon and then take out all the topping and put it into the yogurt part. And they don't have like any type of maybe I'm not doing it right, and there's like some nifty way to do it, but it's just like every time I have one of those, I spill half of the topping outside, and it's very
I've
annoying.
never had that problem. I have to be honest with you.
I don't know what I maybe like that's what I said. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but like I
How big is the
take
spoon you're using?
just like a normal size spoon,
I feel like
like
you should be
that you would.
using a smaller spoon.
I'm not gonna bring a smaller spoon to work to eat the
Uh,
Chobani yogurt.
Why
You're
not,
gonna
dude? Why
spill
not?
you're gonna
Could
spill
be worth
toppings
it.
everywhere.
I bring
Yeah.
a single disposable spoon and then I put it in the recycling bin and then I'm done. I don't have to
Disposable
worry about
spoon. It's like I think you're just being sloppy.
maybe. Like I entice our listeners to go buy a Chobani Flips, and if they get 100% of the topping into the yogurt, to write to us so we can give them kudos on the pod. That's what I'll say.
Might have to buy
Okay.
one to demonstrate on the pod next
Yeah,
week.
yeah. I will. I might
No,
even
I
have
might
one
have
right
to
now.
show you how to
Oh,
do it
okay.
properly.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So bust with Chobani Flips. I'm sick of their shitty packaging. Okay. And my second bust, which is I referenced this in sports, was Gareth Southgate. Me and Steve were talking about this. He's the English manager for the international team, Brian,
Mhm.
and he's come across like I don't know how, but for them they've kind of have like a second golden generation, in my opinion, and he's still hanging on to
His
like
results,
has-beens who are now playing it.
yeah,
He
his
did well.
results have
Like he
been
did well.
kind of
Yeah,
well,
he
yeah.
did well. So he started hot, but now I think recently they've done pretty poorly, and so he's we talked about the exodus to Saudi Arabia, the league there, like players who are past it or like just really want a big payday going there and taking that money. And for most other international teams, that would kind of signal the end of their international career, minus like a Ronaldo type. Uh, but he's still picking players from Saudi Arabia who are past it. Two in particular, or the one that really strikes me as odd is Jordan Henderson from Liverpool. Especially when his midfield, like he has a lot of options in his midfield, and he's consistently gone back to the one that like he doesn't have to explain, he doesn't have to justify. It's a no action. It's just what it was. And like I mentioned at the beginning, they have a very good squad. England is a very good squad, and to me, they should be really competing for like every major tournament. Last one, this one, and maybe the next one. And I don't think he's the manager to get them there. He's more about building like a family as opposed to X's and O tactics. And I think now that the goodwill is kind of tapered off, they need to make a change if they are serious about bringing this next golden generation to light. Okay, that's
I'd
my
love them.
bust.
I'd love them to make a change because his results have been really good when you look at what was happening before, and I don't think it would be as good with somebody else. And I don't want England to do well, so they should make a change for my benefit. Honestly, like they've made what
What did they do at the
semifinal?
last World Cup?
They would have made it to. They lost on a penalty shootout to the eventual runner-up France because Harry Kane skied the last PK of a shootout, from what I recall.
Yeah, but I just think their squad is so good. Like, look at the players, man. Look at their midfield. They could start a Bellingham Rice double pivot, and it would be better than pretty much anyone, maybe minus France, in my opinion. Like
Probably, I agree.
they
That's
have
what I was gonna
solid.
say.
So
France is
so,
the only one.
and then they have Saka on the right. They have a a slightly older Harry Kane, but a very good player still, and they have good goalkeepers. They have players from City, uh, like John Stones to play center back for them and stuff, who's actually like very good for the English team. And he keeps bringing back Harry Maguire. I don't
Harry Maguire.
understand that at the expense of like I don't think there's any justification. You might say like like he's good at tournaments, but his team selection is so bad, and that's my main issue. Is that his allegiance to players from his past is like counterproductive for England's future. That's what I'll say about Garrett's
Yeah,
Southgate.
I agree with everything you say about him, and it always feels like he's like lucking into these results because his team selection and his tactics are pretty poor. But then you can't
Hmm.
like argue with the results, so it's very strange. Plus, he seems like a very goofy guy. Like it's very
They like
bizarre.
him.
Yeah,
He's big brother
it's
to them. Like
yeah.
he puts his hand around all these players. Like I think there was a specific like little clip of him talking to John Stones, and he was like so happy that John Stones was playing again after staying a year and a half on the bench in Man City, and he's like really excited about his new position inverting into the like midfield and stuff, and he knew everything about it. So he obviously follows these players very closely and is close with them, but I think that closeness might be detrimental in the future when they really need to go for the finals and win it, because that's how good their team is, Brian. That's how I would put them like at the absolute top.
For sure.
I talked too much about my Bool or bust. What are your guys's?
Sebastian,
Do
go
you have a
ahead.
Bool? Wait, did you have a Bool or no? Just two
No,
busts?
I just had 2 busts this week. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll start off with, I have 2 busts and a Bool, but one of my busts they're both pretty simple. Number one is the excessive impression farming on Twitter recently. People have no shame. They're just like constantly quote tweeting their old tweets so people click on them so they get more impressions on old tweets plus their new tweets. And it's gotten out of hand. It's very spammy and just kind of shameful. People are really quite embarrassing right now on Twitter. I mean, like people with blue checks who are trying to make money from it, basically. It's become a disaster. Number 2 is like the polarization of Deion Sanders as a coach. It's like you can't. I love Deion a lot. Like I'm really happy for Colorado. It's awesome what he's done. Like it's really really incredible the quick turnaround. And I've liked Deion since I was a kid. I mean, I have one of his jerseys from when he was a Cowboy. But like he's not perfect. You can criticize certain things about what he's in the game. Like they shouldn't have even been close with Colorado State this past week. And I feel that him getting caught up on the really petty and stupid sunglass comment from Colorado State's coach caused his team to come out really angry and distracted early on, and they played like shit for like 3/4 of the game. And I feel like you can say that, but apparently, like if you say that, people jump down your throat. Um, and then there's also people who are on the other side being like, I can't say anything nice about him because I don't like how he's doing it. It's like, no, you can, like, he's a fucking person, a public figure. You can be critical and you can also like be honest about how great what he's doing. Like it's turning into a lot like the political atmosphere in this country. Like you have to be all in one way or the other. There's no room for nuance, and I find it very frustrating. Like I do think there's room for people to just be honest about what they're seeing and not have to dig their heels in with Dion is perfect or Dion sucks. Like it's terrible right now. It's a bad atmosphere. But those were my 2 busts, and then my Bool is Billions. It's a great show. I never really was watching it when it was on, and I've been
It's
binging it
over, isn't
recently.
it?
I think it's finishing or it's over. I'm on like season
Oh,
4
okay.
right now, and it's just like a tremendously entertaining show. Really good cast. They have like some crazy cameos. You'll just be watching an episode and it'd be like, oh shit, there's Kevin Durant, or like, damn, Mark Cuban's in this. Oh damn, like last night I was watching one and fucking Deontay Wilder and Jocko,
That's
the
sick.
Jocko Willick, and also
Yeah.
Stipe Miocic were all in the same episode. And it was just like, this is fucking random as hell, but it's fucking awesome.
Kind of sick.
Yeah, I feel like it was very overlooked while it was on, and it's a very good show.
Is this after Axe left?
I'm not there yet, but
Like,
I
because
know
there
he
was
does
Axe
leave.
and
Yeah,
Wags. Oh, okay.
yeah.
So
I
so
don't.
these all of these
Yeah, I'm not
cameos
there
were
yet.
before.
Yeah,
I haven't watched anything, but I know Chris Billis talked about it on the pod, right? So I
yeah. I've
know
never
that like
listened to it.
there was a big talking point. I'm not going to spoil anything because I have nothing to spoil, but I would the
You never
Wags.
know with Ashwin, dude.
Yeah, you never know.
He
Well,
speaks in
Ashwin's like one of these
spoilers, dude.
people.
The Wags character threw me off. That's all I say. From the little I've seen, you know,
Well, because he's Gale from Breaking
yeah,
Bad.
yeah, he's yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
It doesn't compute for me, but I understand. It's people like that show a lot.
Yeah, I feel like people didn't talk about it enough when it was on.
For sure. What's next?
Brian is next. Those were my Bulls
I'm
and
next.
busts.
Okay, I have 2 busts, and then kind of like a half Bool.
Pseudo
A half
Bool.
Bool.
Yeah, pseudo Bool. The first bust is K-pop stands. So just to give a little bit of context.
Directed at me.
Nah,
Oh, no,
it's gonna be bad.
at you. It's not directed at you. It's not directed
Dude,
at
they're
you.
gonna find us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, dude. I know.
You
Hey,
fucked up. I don't
whatever gets some listens,
co-sign
dude.
this.
There's
I don't co-sign
there's
this.
some demographics you don't attack, Brian. Like
I'm
in
gonna
that bonus.
okay.
I think
I'm
you
not.
guys are great.
Okay, basically, just to provide a little context, I went to my cousin's baby shower last weekend, and it was cool. There was one of my cousin's friends' little brother. That's kind of a weird extended thing, but I had known him because he went to the same elementary school as me, and he's a couple years older than me. But I haven't seen him in probably over 15 years, and he is just like a massive K-pop stan. He comes in with like a Twice shirt, which is like a Korean girl group. And it was kind of difficult to have a conversation with him. I was just trying to catch up, talk about anything, right? But the only thing he really seemed to have any kind of passion for or any interest in speaking about was K-pop. And but I'm not trying to be a not social guy, I suppose. So I'm like having a conversation with him, and he was just very, how do I say, obsessed with Twice. And he was saying like, anytime I go to a Twice concert, like I have to be at the front. Was showing me a bunch of pictures. It just felt a little strange. It just felt a little strange because it's like, at what point is it acceptable for, let's say he's 30, 33, 34-year-old man to like be so infatuated with 18-year-old Korean woman. Yeah, just feels a little strange
That's
to me.
not great. That aspect is not great, I would say.
But I think he's one of many. And again, I think that I don't have anything.
There's
Go ahead.
off-stream questions I would want to ask about him that I'm not going to ask on here.
So hey, more power to him. Honestly, I don't think the music's that bad. Stuff like that is catchy. My mom likes BTS. He was having a nice involved conversation with my mom about BTS. So that was a nice connection they were able to make. But I gotta say, overall, not a bad guy. But I think the fandom is something I gotta say is a bust.
So I'll defend him and I'll say that.
Yeah, you would. You would, Ashwin.
Twice is actually pretty old. Like they're 24 to 28, so it's not as bad. But
all right.
There are many groups that age, and they all are like the one that shocked me at how young they were when I was like listening to them for a little bit was New Jeans. Like
okay, sure.
They're like
maybe I'm confusing them.
They're 16 to 18 years old, and like that is a little too young even to like I wouldn't listen to a 14 or 16-year-old like country music star.
I would argue even with the group being 24 to 28, is there like any baseline level of shamelessness that basically you're like, okay, let's say they're 24 to 28 and they're attractive and you're like, all right, I'm a huge fan. You know what I mean? It's like,
I mean, I'm a huge fan of like Glorilla though.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I do listen to like there's Glockiana, like she's like 16.
Yeah.
Big fan of her.
Fair enough.
But I do think being obsessive about it is a little strange. I would agree with that aspect.
That is what I'll buy in with you, Brian, or like what I see as busty is like when the 33-year-old has to be in the front row and it's become his identity instead of like for the absence of everything else. Like that's kind of whack. Yeah, I can feel it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But overall he's a nice guy. But I was rubbed the wrong way by the fandom, dude.
It's fair. Totally fair.
My next bust is, I don't know if it's a bust or if it was just my experience with it, but it is doormen at like luxury apartments. Just to give a little context, I was talking to you a little bit about Ashwin, but I was going to stay and just hang out at Arya's place one day, and Arya had fallen asleep after a night out, and the doorman was just being very difficult, and I was just pleading with him, like, please let me go knock on the door. I understand he's just doing his job, so that's why it's like a half bust. But I was like, please, just let me knock on his door. Like, if I can't get into his apartment, I'm literally gonna be just like homeless for the evening. But he was very staunch and would not. And even funnily enough, like 2 minutes later after I asked him, Arya had ordered food before he fell asleep. And so like the doorman is able to go up to Arya's room, and I'm like, please, let me just go up with him and knock on his door or anything. But I won't fault the guy. He's just doing his job, but it just seemed excessively restrictive. I had his name. I had Arya's number. I was like, dude, you can look it up. Like I have the guy's number. I'm not some crazy guy. But so I'll give it halfway, maybe more so a bust for the situation. Maybe not doormen themselves, but I do feel like he was being a little heavy-handed.
I think Arya's the bust in the situation.
Oh, he for sure is.
On the Doorman's podcast, you're the bust.
Yeah.
Arya for sure was. Arya for sure was.
Asking me to let him upstairs and punch him in the face.
No, punch me in the face, dude.
Like, the doorman could be like sketched that it's like a lover's quarrel.
No. Maybe, dude. Maybe. Oh. But luckily I was able to get in because one of Arya's friends a few of them happened to be awake, and one of them remembered, isn't one of Arya's friends supposed to come over? And I have that person's number, thankfully, and they saw that Arya had like 12 missed calls from me and like 20 texts saying, "Hey man, like, come on, like you're fucking me right now." You know what I mean?
How long were you there,
dude? It's before I was able to go up, like 40 minutes.
Oh, geez, that's a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was bad, dude. It was bad, and like I had parked at Arya's place as well. So I was literally about to leave. I was like, okay, fine. If I'm gonna have to figure out how to slum it for the evening, let me just get my backpack and my charger at least. So I went to my car to get my backpack, and I was like about to dip, and then I got a call from our mutual friend that was able to let me off.
So yeah. I agree with you, Brian. It seemed like a little heavy, like too heavy-handed, especially when like I can totally understand the doorman not letting you up like by yourself, but if he was walking up to the room anyways to not let you tag along, that seems a little bit too much. Like
you're saying, man,
you're going to the door, like he was there to supervise you, like he was doing his job, you were doing, like, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying, man.
One step too much for me. I think if he was going to the room, he should let you come with him.
But I'm not that mad at him. I understand he's just doing his job. It just felt like you could help a guy out. So, like it could,
yeah.
It could be much easier, but it's fine. And then lastly, my Bool is just a simple one. It's skinny popcorn. I've just been mashing those a lot. Pretty good snack. Not very heavy, and surprisingly for how little, I guess, like nutritional value they hold, they have like pretty good flavor. Whatever artificial buttering or salt or maybe whatever they're using, it's quite good. So simple Bool, but it would be skinny pop. I do enjoy those quite a bit.
I'm a fan, yeah.
People at my work love them, so I can understand it. Yeah.
Yep. And that is all from my end.
Okay, excellent. That concludes Bool or Bust. We had another long pod. We'll try to kind of narrow it down and be more focused next week. Sebastian's doing Song of the Week this week. Tell us about your song, Sebastian.
So my song comes from he was one of the rising stars in the Afrobeat scene. His name was Mobad. His song's Peace. He recently passed away at the age of 27 from kind of murky circumstances. Nobody's really 100% sure what happened. A lot of conspiracy theories floating out there. It's kind of not the best, but really sad. He was probably one of my favorite artists, if not my single favorite artist in the Afrobeat space. So yeah, rest in peace, Promise, Oladimeji, Oloba, aka Mobad. And this song is Peace by Mobad. And I hope he's found his peace.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys next week.
Yeah.
See you.
Peace.
Survivor, me onigba, money chaser, faster than a bullet, flying like a rocket, bad man we never rest, king of south and the west, faster than a car, mon fait banissa, faster than a benzo, you below level so, bad vibes on the ground, Reading my psalm, I'm so biblical. I hate to look at them with them to nigga. They won't say your nigga. They want to turn your teacher. Before you are my nigga, oh my nigga.